Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Black Talk Platform, where I am your host, Dr. Deborah D. Jenkins. This is not a great episode because it's cloaked in tragedy once again. I am here just sharing my views on the massacre. Well, I suppose they're not calling it a massacre, but it certainly is a horrific triple murder at the University of Virginia in Charlottesville. I'm on their website, the school's website, and I want you to take note of this picture. This is of more than 1,000 students, faculty, and community members gathering to mourn the loss of three young men. And I understand that there are two more who remain in the hospital. One is in critical condition, and the other's status I am unaware of. But I needed to stop and take a moment to join in the grief with these families, with these students, and with this university. Let me read what they have presented here, and then I'll give you some of my own commentary towards the end. This will not be long because I just wanted to pay homage to them and memorialize them. The article from the University of Virginia's website says students participated in a silent vigil Monday night, less than 24 hours after a gunman shot five of their classmates, three fatally, on a charter bus that had just returned to grounds from a field trip. The three slain students were members of the University of Virginia football team. Two other students wounded in the shooting near Colbert Garage are in the University of Virginia Medical Center. While we're at it, let me speak the names and tell you a little bit about those three murdered students. Their names are Lavel Davis Jr., Deshaun Perry, and Devin Chandler. They are, as the article stated, three University of Virginia football players and are alleged to have been shot and killed by a former teammate of theirs and a student also at the University of Virginia. Lavel Davis Jr. was 20 years old and he was a third year student from Richville, South Carolina. He was a wide receiver for the University of Virginia and had been playing with the university since 2020. Davis was set to graduate in December and was the beloved first child and role model to his younger brother and younger sister, his father, Thaddeus Davis, said. "I lost my baby. This is my firstborn child," he told NBC News. He said Davis could light up a room just with a smile, and that his son was focused on school, football, and his family. That was the obituary for Lavel Davis. Deshaun Perry, 22, was a fourth year student from Miami, Florida. He was a linebacker and defensive end for the University of Virginia Cavaliers, a do-it-all defender. He played in this past Saturday's game against Pittsburgh and made two tackles. His parents, Happy and Sean, were heartbroken, to say the least, by this news. And finally, Devin Chandler was a second-year student and a wide receiver and kick returner for the Cavaliers. Before coming to the University of Virginia, Chandler was a wide receiver and kick returner at the University of Wisconsin. The Monday gathering on the lawn near Old Cabell Hall was meant for quiet reflection ahead of a more formal, large-scale vigil further down the line. Several student groups wrote in an email to classmates letting them know. But the crowd soon swelled to several thousand, perhaps thousands of students, and further details were not yet available. I'm gonna see if I can show you pictures of the gathering. You may not be able to hear the audio, but if you could just see this video, the outpouring of love. Um, I can't do that right now. I can't do that because I don't want to go into Instagram. But let me continue on and see if I can find images of these very handsome young men. It says early in the day, the painful details University President Jim Ryan recounted the Sunday night shooting and identified the slain students as, again, as I've said, Deshaun Perry, a defensive end and linebacker from Miami, Lavel Davis Jr., a wide receiver from Richville, South Carolina, and Devin Chandler, a wide receiver from Virginia Beach, Virginia. Ryan said Chandler was a second-year student, Davis was a third-year student, and Perry was a fourth-year student. Ryan said the bus was with about 25 students aboard, had returned to the grounds from Washington, where, as part of a class trip, the students had seen a play. And shortly after the bus returned to the university, the gunmen opened fire inside and then fled. Police said they did not know what, if anything, led to the shooting. I mean, clearly something led to the shooting. And it is so painful because parents do not send their children away from home, whether it's 5 miles or 500 miles, to ever receive a call that they've been murdered by one of their classmates and perhaps even a former friend. I am fully in favor of the Second Amendment, but I do believe in gun responsibility, gun ownership responsibility. The young man who is accused of murdering these young men, they may never get from him what his motivation was. But I certainly believe that as a Black community, we have got to become more engaged with what's going on with our young people. Many of you know my daughter's away at college, and I threaten her all the time if she hasn't spoken to me in a little while, that I'll be on my way. And we have to remain involved in our young people's lives. So much is going on, and their lives are so different than ours. And this is in no way making excuses for the gunmen, but I do believe that we still bear such a large responsibility. And I don't mean just the parents, I mean the community bears a responsibility to ensure that these young people are doing okay. My daughter called me the other day. In fact, it was yesterday. Excuse me. And she was telling me how she missed me. She missed our puppy or our dog. And some of you know that my mother passed last year, and it has been a devastating loss for me, my children, my 3 sisters, and my nieces and nephews. It's just been devastating. And for her to be away and tell me, we were joking in our conversation, but she sort of slipped that in, Mom, I missed you. Yes, I was crying. I missed the part where she said she was crying because she missed me and she missed the dog. And most of all, she missed my mom, her grandmother. And she said, did you even hear me? So even though she and I have a terrific relationship and I was in joke mode, she was sharing with me something that was critically important to our conversation. And to her, she asked me, did I hear her? And I'm sharing this personal information with you all because sometimes we can miss them trying to tell us what they're dealing with and what they're going through. Now, this is just beyond midterms, and some students may still be having midterms. And so for her to be away, first time ever being away, having college midterms, and feeling nostalgic or melancholy for home, We have got to be able to hear them. And I almost missed it. And I would have missed it if she had not said, "Did you even hear me?" I don't know the first thing about the killer, but I do know that these are signs that they try to give us, and we have got to be still enough and we have got to be quiet enough to let them speak. We've got to do that. We have got to be able to let them speak and share from their hearts. And guess what? It's not always going to be something that we want to hear or even appreciate, but they have to have space to tell us what's going on with them and what they're experiencing and what they are feeling. And I thank God that I was able to hear her, but it wasn't because I was instantly available for her, right? It was because she insisted by saying, "Did you even hear me?" And I hadn't heard her. But God gave me another opportunity. And that's just, that is just one story, my story. But what was missed with these young people, with this young man? What made him turn on his classmates like this? We may never know. We may never know. But that question is going to be one that these parents would love to have answered. Look at how handsome these young men were. You're not going to be able to hear the audio right now. But you can at least see them. And I believe most of you have by now seen these three handsome young men whose lives were fully ahead of them. And yes, some of you may be saying, well, she could do a much better job with this presentation. Actually can't, because it's more important to me right now that you are able to get the substance of what I am presenting rather than how,
Call
editorially
1-866
perfect it
NY-QUITS for
is.
free nicotine
And that's a
patches
great
and more.
PSA right there. So these are
a shaken campus uniting
people
in grief.
gathered.
The University of Virginia mourning 3 football players. 2 other students were injured after a shooting rocked the school.
The shootings occurred on a bus full of students returning from a field trip. 3 of the victims did not survive.
Gunshots rang out Sunday night. An intense manhunt in and around Charlottesville for the suspect followed.
Pardon me.
In the middle of a press conference, the news everyone on campus was hoping for.
Thank you, Captain. We just received information the suspect is in custody.
Police have identified the suspect as University of Virginia student Christopher Darnell Jones Jr. The 22-year-old was a freshman on the UVA football team in 2018, but did not play in any games. Police said Jones was arrested about 75 miles outside the Charlottesville campus. The university identified the victims as Devin Chandler, Lavel Davis Jr., and Deshaun Perry, all current football players. Officials did not identify the 2 additional students injured in the incident. The UVA
All right. By now, most of you who have been paying attention to the news have seen that footage, and the killer. And it's just pulling at my heartstrings. And this is just, I don't know, I'm almost speechless, but because I have a college student, I just wanted to appeal to all of you who do have them in your lives. College is not easy. If you've ever gone to college, it's not at all like grade school. All of the responsibility is on you. There are no teachers meeting with your parents. Everything is on you, and they need to be able to navigate. I have no clue, and just to be able to try to make sense of it, and I don't think there's anyone who can make sense of this, and I don't think we should try hard to, because there's no reason why these 3 young men should be no longer with us, but that is the case. They are not with us, and they are not with their families, and they will never ever get over this. And what a shame, what a crime. In other news, the University of Idaho also had 4 students, I believe, to have lost their lives. They're calling it a homicide. They're not saying whether or not they have anyone in custody, and they are calling it a crime of passion, but they are clearly saying none of them killed each other. There are others who are responsible. It is the most bizarre thing. But I want to keep with this theme of us being mindful of what young people who are away at college are dealing with. I mean, I had to get up to speed very quickly. My daughter being away is quite different than when my son went away. I learned terms that I didn't know before, and if I can help anyone who may not know the term called pre-gaming, that is when before they go out to a party, they get high either using alcohol, by drinking alcohol, or using drugs. Brand new term for me. And the way it came to my knowledge was I was literally taking my daughter back to school after they were home for mental health awareness or something like that. They gave them a day off. And one of her friends who lives in another dorm called her, and she had it on the speakerphone. And he asked her, he said, "Are you at your dorm?" She's like, "No, I went home." He says, "Oh man." She says, "What's up?" And he said, "I wanted to get in your dorm so that I can go in pregame." So he lives in another dorm, but he has a lot of friends in her dorm. And he clearly knows where he can get his drugs or alcohol. That's why he wanted to be able to get into her building. Now, did she tell me any more? I mean, I heard the whole conversation. I asked her, of course, as a parent, "Are you involved in pre-gaming?" Not because I expected full honesty, but I would have been remiss to not ask her, right? So I'm sharing this with you all to say, even if they lie, you still have a responsibility to ask. There is something wrong with him having made the team in 2018 and never played. Who knows what that did to his psyche? I have no clue. But someone needed to be paying attention to his behavior, his words, everything. And because these young men are dead now, and 2 others are clinging to life. I don't know what else to say other than this is heartbreaking. And I join their family in their grief and in their prayers, believing and hoping that they will get through this as a family, and that their communities will rally around them to support them in their greatest time of need. This has been Dr. Deborah D. Jenkins, your host for Black Talk Platform, praying for these 3 families, and I hope you will too. And anyone in the University of Virginia, Charlottesville area, we're praying for you also. God bless you all, and until next time, peace.